Do you think that the moment that you were in Brazil where you just sort of had this aha, this epiphany, do you think that it was Brazil that triggered it, or do you think that it was just the culmination of everything prior to Brazil leading up to it?
I think it was a combination of both. I think that I was feeling really smothered and really knew that I wanted to do something different.
Hmm.
And I think that finally, hanging out in Brazil, I mean, we met this girl that was we met this girl when we were in Europe that, had this penthouse apartment on Copacabana Beach, 4-room beachfront resort house in Búzios. So we lived a high life in Brazil. And so I think that it was kind of like all that stuff combined, thinking it's like, you know what, you don't have to be some millionaire to live this insane lifestyle. It's all about who you know and having the free time to do it. I think that was the most important thing is Brazil made me realize it's like, you know what, if I had more free time, I could be doing this on a much more regular basis. So, you can make the money come, but freeing up the time was the most important thing for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Last year we did not Carnival, but we did New Year's Eve in Copacabana. And
Yeah, I saw the videos from that.
yeah, it was pretty incredible. And we had a great time. In fact, it's funny that you mentioned Buzios because we are doing 10 days, no, about 2 weeks in Thanksgiving in Buzios this year. So I've never been, so it looks like it's going to be, it's based on what you're telling me, it sounds like it's going to be great.
It's incredible. We'll talk later on.
Yeah, you have to hook me up. Okay, great.
If you want to learn how Rob and Kim leverage technology to create the income, time, and freedom to regularly travel from one jet-set destination to the other using their proven system, you can claim your risk-free trial membership to Jet Set Money by going to getjetsetmoney.com. Here's Rob.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about, so now we got a little background about what led you to Thailand. So I want to talk a little bit about what it's like in Thailand. So do you have an apartment there? Or are you renting a house? What's the setup like?
So I rent an apartment in the Victory Monument neighborhood, which is, central Bangkok, but it's still a little ways outside of where a lot of the expat areas are. Sukhumvit Road is kind of where all the main stuff is happening, Sukhumvit and Siloam. And so I'm, maybe a 10, 15-minute BTS ride away from those areas. But, the area I'm in it's predominantly Thai.
What's BTS mean? Sorry.
Oh, it's the SkyTrain, public transit.
Okay, got it.
It's predominantly a Thai neighborhood. It's way less expensive than some of the more touristy expat neighborhoods, and the food is way better and way less expensive. So those three things combined, kind of made it the perfect place for me to hang out.
So it's an apartment.
An apartment there, I pay like $200 a month plus utilities for a basic apartment, bathroom, hot water, balcony.
Did you say 200?
$200 a month.
I spent that on dinner last Saturday night.
Exactly. I mean, that is one of the biggest appeals of Bangkok is, you can spend $200 and get a basic place. When I first moved here, it was the decision between the $200 basic room or the like $400 or $500 palace. It was like one bedroom, came with like leather couches and flat screen TVs.
Dude, that's unbelievable.
For next to nothing.
So you're earning money in U.S. dollars, and we'll talk about money we do an entirely different series on how you make the money, and maybe we can talk about hooking that up. But for now, it's more lifestyle. But right. You're effectively making the cash in U.S. dollars. Is that right?
Correct.
So you're taking U.S. dollars and you're spending it on Filipino, is it pesos?
Thai baht.
Oh, okay, Thai baht. So you're spending it there. So the conversion is just completely to your advantage.
Yeah, it's like 32 baht to the dollar or something like that. So, it's interesting because there's certain things here that are extremely cheap, like lodging, and there's certain things here that are, more expensive than I imagined they'd be. Like alcohol, for instance, is, more or less just as expensive as it was back in the States. So you go out 4 or 5 nights a week, and that adds up pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So that's when you become really glad that you're paying next to nothing on rent.
So booze is more, but apartments and living expenses are cheaper.
And food is like nothing. My favorite restaurant, which is, a 5-minute walk from my place, I can get a big plate of, any Thai dish I want for like 25 baht, so less than $1.
This may be a silly question, but with the dramatic change in nutrition, how has that affected your body? In other words, is it like spices that you're not used to and you get stomach aches or any dysentery or any of that kind of stuff from being,
I was expecting it to be a lot worse when I got here.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard like the first 3 weeks you're going to be a mess, and it really, I had a few issues. The first month I was here, I was traveling down through the islands. I was in like PP and Krabi and Phuket, and I ended up eating at a lot more kind of touristy, like Western restaurants, and those were the ones that ended up making me more sick because they weren't fresh ingredients. They have a lot of power outages, so you never know if things have been thawed and refrozen. Generally speaking, I've had no issues. I eat street food every day, no problems. So I think that's one of the biggest surprises is the fact that that's been such a non-issue for me.
Let's talk about the power outages. I've got two full-time assistants in the Philippines now, and there are some very regular, frustrating power outages that they need to deal with, and they do the best they can to deal with them. But sometimes there's elections going on there, and there's power outages. And talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I work with half a dozen people in the Philippines as well, and it's definitely more prevalent there than it is here. Mm-hmm. I think in the whole time I've been here, I think I've experienced maybe half a dozen, and most of which they only last for half an hour to an hour. I think when you get farther down south into some of the islands where there's less infrastructure, I think that's where you run into a lot more problems, especially as you get into a stormier season.
Yeah.
But in Bangkok, generally, it's pretty stable.
So you don't have any issues like they do in the Philippines?
Very rarely.
Okay.
Not nearly as much as they do.
So you know what I'm talking about, where it just keeps going out in the Philippines.
Oh, yeah. It's like, it's trying to send someone an email for 6 hours and you get an email back the next day saying, another rolling blackout.